Shall we proceed, Professor?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Once again, a very warm good morning to everyone present here. This is Nitish Kumar, and I'm an assistant professor of law at Tamil Nadu National Law University. And with immense happiness, I welcome all of you to the inaugural session of the 7th International Conference on Law and Economics. This 7th edition of the conference is jointly organized by the Tamil Nadu National Law University at Tiruchirappalli and the Indian Association of Law and Economics. I request all of you to kindly rise for the rendition of Tamil Taiwan. I request all of you to be seated. Thank you. We shall commence this inaugural session with the address by our Honorable Chief Guest, respected Professor Bimal N. Patel, as he has informed us that due to varied pressing commitments, he shall not be able to avail himself for the entire length of this inaugural session. Before handing over the podium to our respected professor, I shall briefly present certain highlights from his glittering career in order to introduce him to the gathering. Professor Dr. Bimal N. Patel is a professor of public international law and he is currently the Vice Chancellor of Rashtriya Raksha University, Gujarat. The first international conference on law and economics was held at GNLU, Gujarat National Law University, in the year of 2015 under the Vice Chancellorship of Professor Patel. And the Indian Association of Law and Economics was formed with the support, guidance, and able leadership of Professor Patel himself, along with Professor Hans Fred Schaffer in the year of 2016. Professor Patel is an institution builder of exemplary repute. His visionary leadership had taken GNLU to its highest ranking in NIRF. The Rashtriya Raksha University is included as University of National Importance under his current tenure as Vice Chancellor. Professor Patel has been elected to the International Law Commission for a 5-year term starting from January 1st of 2023. Professor is also the member of National Security Advisory Board of India, and he was also a member of 21st Law Commission of India. He currently plays varied roles as a member of different and many state-appointed committees. And all that I just mentioned is just the tip of the iceberg because of the time crunch we have. Now, without any further ado, I will hand over the podium to Professor Bimal N. Patel to address the gathering. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to join this conference and thank my colleague, Professor Elizabeth, the Vice Chancellor, for the invitation and sustaining this interdisciplinary scholarly movement. We academicians often take bold initiatives and try to shape the thought processes and validate such initiatives by sustained scholarly efforts in terms of their practical utility and relevance for the society. The law and economics resonate one such initiative which started by my colleague in GNLU, Professor Tanaga, and later on, national and international scholars, members of the judiciary, executive, and lawmaking all started to underline the importance and supported the initiative. While at individual level, see Dr. Hitesh Thakkar, these are all the credit. At institutional level, the Gujarat National Law University, which has taken several of such long-lasting, socially relevant initiatives, deserve the initial grooming. And of course, as a former director of the university, I feel deeply satisfied to see that the initiative is really maturing. And I'm sure it will bring desired results for the society and for the nation. I express deep gratitude to the chief patron, my colleague Professor Elizabeth, the advisory board members, the organizing committee, the technical support team, and most importantly, student volunteers who have been working for this conference. It is the team of GNLU and later on Pan India students who, besides helping in fixing the PowerPoint presentations, bringing guests from airports and railway stations, accompanying them to various conference halls and dinner tables or lunch tables, who have furthered the cause by contributing to volumes on law and economics. I take this opportunity to thank many such students from GNLU and from across NLUs and other law colleges and economic institutions, and wish all encouragements
तो कुछ आइडिया मिला के आपका कुछ
everything needed to consolidate
ठीक है
the law and economics movement in India and beyond.
ठीक है
Law and economics, with its positive economic analysis, aims to explain the behavior of legislators, prosecutors, judges, and bureaucrats in their institutional capacities and individuals in their personal and professional lives. The model of rational choice, which underlines much of modern economics, proved to be very useful for explaining and predicting how people act under various legal constraints. This positive analysis informs the normative branch of the discipline about possible outcomes. If the effects of divergent legal rules and institutions are known, the normative analyst will be able to discern efficient rules from those that are inefficient and formulate reform proposals to increase the efficiency of the law. Also, law and economics has the ability to improve the quality of the legal system. If we focus on international law and economics, the rational choice methods have advanced our understanding how on many key international legal issues, including why states make international law and what type of legal instruments they choose to use, scholars have been able to explain why and when states comply or fail to comply with international law, as well as the tensions inherent in the establishment of international institutions and their ability to constrain the state behavior in a world of increasing integration and mutual reliance. However, the shifting political landscape is changing how we think about and model these interactions. The most direct implication this will have for international law and economic scholarship is the change in the number and the identity of countries whose preferences matter in interactions. The geopolitical structure of the world has until recently lent itself to simple models that focus on strategic interactions involving a handful of few key actors, while generally ignoring the preferences of the rest of what can be considered the developing economies. But today's international sphere features a greater multiplicity of relevant actors. Emerging powers, aggressive powers, aspirational powers are able to advance increasingly successfully a much broader and diverse set of preferences in their international interactions. This emergence of these new players with standing in the debate forces us to revisit the basic assumptions about countries' utility functions that underline all economic analysis of law. Our understanding of what is meant by welfare becomes more elusive. For example, how does China define its fundamental interests in the international order? How does it trade off pursuit of greater wealth and security with a uniquely Chinese desire for social stability, political control, population management, and certain redistributive policies? The utility functions of many emerging actors are less straightforward than those of traditional liberal market-based democracies, and incorporating this into models of interactions require more complex analytical frameworks. But this is also true for any public choice analysis. We may continue to assume that all governments seek to maximize their political welfare. But what this entails requires a careful examination of each relevant player's political system. Thus, the two-level games that capture negotiations taking place simultaneously at the domestic and international level will call for more nuanced understanding of what kind of international pressures different countries with vastly different constitutional systems face. The heterogeneity characterizing the international system also entails that the pursuit of grand theories that can be generalized across countries and issues areas will yield less satisfying insights in the future. And to capture the diversity of the strategic interactions, analytical frameworks will have to be tailored to specific countries and issues that are involved. Further, the time and discounting in utility functions of international actors is becoming more difficult to manage. As you all know, governments have always struggled to balance their short and long-term policy objectives, acknowledging the need to temper growth policies with measures that price in the long-term costs and externalities. This intertemporal tension is becoming more acute in issues ranging from aging workforce in China and the West to energy policy and climate change everywhere. Incorporating these tensions into countries' preference functions will be vital to understanding optimal legal frameworks. the increasingly divergent interests among key actors will also raise new questions on how to accomplish mutually beneficial cooperation. Transfer payments will need to evolve to overcome complex collective action problems crucial to global welfare and security. Threats to global order will be more diverse and unpredictable. Economic protectionism will become more subtle and harder to detect under existing international frameworks. Multilateral cooperation will become increasingly difficult to achieve as Pareto efficiency will often be unobtainable and much of the bargaining will take place in the second-based world. All these issues will lead scholars and academicians to address more intricate questions on how to design international institutions that can facilitate cooperation in situations where mutual gains may not exist and traditional transfer payment options have been exhausted. These changes also make the limits of law and economics more pronounced. We are learning that good analytics cannot tell us how states should trade off various goals, but should be used to understand how to optimize across various legal strategies and instruments under various alternative definitions of what welfare maximization for each individual state entails. Most valuable research will generate and evaluate alternative outcomes based on different possible combinations of preferences, strategy choices, and constraints, exposing the cost and benefits underlying each of these outcomes. And in the heart of these shifts lies the fundamental modeling challenge of balancing complexity and simplicity. The complexity of reality requires a more nuanced understanding of how states form preferences and what drives their behavior. This provides an avenue for richer and deeper, albeit inevitably less certain insights. And at the same time, generating meaningful insights out of this messy reality requires simplicity. Unearthing the very essential of the static situation is more important than ever to advance our understanding of the most multifaceted problems of international cooperation. Embracing this tension in a fast-changing global landscape will make international law and economics scholarship an increasingly challenging and consequently exciting field for scholars to be working on in the future. Let me move on to security law and economics. Surveillance program makes us incrementally safer, but whether the additional safety is worth the sacrifice in terms of individual privacy, personal liberty, and public trust. When we are talking of the police are a state institution that we all are familiar with. But the perception of this institution among the people depends on the amount of trust vested in the police. Empirical application of ordered probate models on the India Human Development Survey data suggests that the recent experience of violence faced by a household affects its trust in the police significantly. Let's see what general perception is as analyzed by an NGO. Subject to corrections and veracity of analysis, the following is reported, and I quote: The trust varies widely across regions and communities in India, both for households that did or did not experience recent violence. Training the police forces, them to approach cases with empathy, and a shift to community-based policing may help to bridge the trust deficit. According to 3-year-old survey, more than 15,000 respondents across 22 states on perception about policing. The Lokniti team at the Center for Study of Developing Societies found that less than 25% Indians trust the police highly, as compared to 54% for the army. A big reason for this is that interactions with the police can be frustrating, time-consuming, and costly. Furthermore, some data tell us that number of percent of cases that are pending for investigations year after year. This combined with the pendency in the judiciary means securing justice can take a very long time. As in the case of the judiciary, pendency in the police is driven by a lack of resources. Some of these reasons could be sanction strength of the police as well. And therefore, there is need to have more and more police to population ratio. There are several other reports on this matter. At the same time, when we're talking security and police trust, the investigations infrastructure, such as forensic laboratories, also fall short modern state-of-the-art forensic support, which is must for efficient crime investigation and prosecution. The forensic science laboratories and mobile forensic units are crucial for gathering evidence for investigation, as we all believe. Well-equipped mobile forensics vans have facilities to collect DNA samples and undertake on-the-spot tests. For instance, FSLs provide support for analysis of ballistics, fingerprinting, DNA, and other evidence. With police stations lacking equipment and trained staff, missing at various levels of evidence, gathering analysis, investigation gets delayed and genuine cases get closed, unresolved. There are proven and unproven reports in this regard. Overall, however, the failure of cases may not be due to bad law, but due to poor investigation, improper evidence gathering, or even biased investigation. What we do learn from this? We learn that in order to perform more accurate analysis of the trust deficit, their causes merely quoting data and figures won't suffice. And therefore, I would encourage young researchers to perform empirical analysis by applying concepts of economics to the existing policy and law and explain the gaps to better articulate the negative or positive effects policies and laws would have towards citizens. Besides this, each of the security issues or challenge India faces, be it on side of defense, strategy, internal security, and others, there are permeable and impermeable economic linkages, and each of the linkage needs mutually validating analysis in order to determine the key influence a security issue makes on legal thinking and how law and legal process exert on security apparatus. As a member of the National Security Advisory Board, I can say that various security issues are thought through thoroughly from multi-faculty analysis. Law and economics occupy perhaps the most decisive influence. Much less is written though on this. Therefore, I encourage faculty and scholars and students of national security, law and economics to dwell into deeper research in this multidisciplinary interlinking faculty of knowledge, which will be very useful to the policymakers, advisors, law executives, and interpreters alike. Thus, aligning myself and speaking through the experiences of a head of the university as an international law student and security organization, I can only vouch the singular importance of law and economics analysis and strongly encourage everyone to join this Gyan Yagna of law and economics. Enrich yourself, enrich the country, and enrich the humanity with brilliant thoughts, initiatives, and scholarships. Make the law and economics movement more vibrant, more inclusive. Reach out to more and more universities, colleges, institutions, individuals, and very importantly, to the institutions of lawmaking, law executives, and law interpreters. Because academia-public policy partnership will bring the desired results in terms of social change, which we all aspire. Once again, I thank you for your participation. Thank my colleague, Professor Elizabeth, Professor Nagar, and many of you for their commitment to the utility of this law and economics interdisciplinary initiative. Thank you.
Hope I'm audible. Yeah. Thank you so much, Professor. In my introductory note, I called you an envisionary leader, and I think your address reflected the same. Your words are words of vision. For all of them were forward-looking, and how to use law and economic analysis to better the policy making. It was such a wonderful, enlightening session to hear, and we couldn't have asked for a better way to start our proceedings. Thank you so much, Professor. It was such a wonderful session, and I hope all of us, including me, have set the right tone towards this particular conference. Thank you so much, Professor. That was very enlightening.
Thank you, Bimal sir, so much. Thank you for your gracious presence.
Yeah, thank you. In the midst of all your busy commitments to have made it here to this welcome inaugural function, we're grateful, sir. Thank you so much also for all those words leading us forward. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So, to proceed further, I would like to invite Dr. K. Thomas Felix, Assistant Professor of Economics at Tamil Nadu National Law University and the convener of the 7th edition of ICLE. I welcome him and the welcome address. Over to you, Felix.
Thank you, Nitin. Yeah, thank you. So, respected Chief Guest Professor Bimal Patel, Vice Chancellor Rashtriya Raksha University, the Chief Guest of Honor, Honorable Mr. S. Raghupati, Pro Chancellor TNLU, the Chief Patron of ICLE 2021, Professor Dr. V.S. Elizabeth, Vice Chancellor TNLU, the Registrar of TNLU, Ms. Leela, Professor Dr. Anita Nagar, GNLU, Professor Dr. Murali Prasad, IIT Kanpur, the advisory board members, other dignitaries, faculties, and student friends. On behalf of the ICLE 2021 Organizing Committee, I would like to welcome you all for the 7th International Conference on Law and Economics, jointly organized by Tamil Nadu National Law University and the Indian Association of Law and Economics. In particular, I would like to express my gratitude and warm welcome to the plenary speakers, roundtable speakers, moderators, faculty in charge, student volunteers, and featured international and national speakers. In behavioral economics, there is a term called nudging theory, which was proposed by Richard H. Thaler. So the term nudging means a gentle push. Whenever the organizing committee feels slow, so they gave a nudge to the organizing committee. So for that, I would like to express our heartfelt gratefulness to the Vice Chancellor, TNLU, Professor Dr. V.S. Elizabeth, and especially to Professor Dr. Anita R. Nagar. As we know that this is the 7th International Conference on Law and Economics. At this moment, I would like to thank the IALE members who laid the founding stone for this ICLE. Last but not least, I would like to welcome the heroes and heroines of today's conference, none other than the paper presenters. Without your contribution, this conference would not have been possible. Thanks for rendering your unconditional support through paper submission. So the value of any conference does not lie on the material aspect offered to the participants. The importance should be placed on learning from the other researchers and developing contacts. Hence, we request you all to make use of this conference. With a large number of participants, we are sure that this conference will be a memorable, highly educational, and not to be missed event. We hope that this conference will help you better understanding the subject of law and economics and obtain the knowledge necessary to improve the state of the subject in our country. We truly value your participation and support for this conference. Thank you so much for attending, for your kind attention and your participation, even at this pandemic situation. So I'll conclude, we have to protect yourself and others, get vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Felix, for your warm words of welcome on this cold November morning. Next up, I would like to welcome Professor Dr. Panta Murali Prasad, Professor of Economics, IIT Kanpur, to expound on the International Conference on Law and Economics and the Indian Association of Law and Economics. To introduce Dr. Murali Prasad Panta, he holds a PhD in economics and is currently a professor in the Department of Economic Sciences at the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. He works in the areas of law and economics and also environmental economics as his research interest. He conducts evidence-based, policy-oriented, interdisciplinary research to understand the impact of human empowerment on consumerism and environmentalism. Professor has published various papers and books on consumerism and environmentalism in India. He has developed and offered various courses on law, economics, and environmental economics, and he had also played a crucial role in development of the MSc Economics program in IIT Kanpur. He is the founder president of the International Indian Association of Law and Economics, and presently he works in the areas of sustainable development, cities, road safety and security, and healthcare services. Sir, I welcome you to brief about the conference. Over to you, sir. Dr. Prasad, am I audible?
Good morning to all of you. Thank you very much for nice introduction. And I really say that the Honorable Minister and the Pro Vice Chancellor, Mr. S. Raghupati, and the Vice Chancellor, Professor Elizabeth, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Indian Association of Law and Economics, I'm thankful to the organizers of the conference for providing me an opportunity to share with you a brief information regarding the association and its activities. I would like to also to take this opportunity to share my perception regarding the knowledge creation and dissemination on cyberspace critical technologies and the ethics and value of a rupee in the context of sustainable development as part of the association's academic endeavor. The International Conference on Law and Economics at GNLU in the year 2015 under the consortium of GNLU, IIT Kanpur, and IIM Ahmedabad has motivated us to promote the interdisciplinary subject, law and economics, in our country collectively. As part of it, we have had the second conference at IIT Kanpur in the year 2016 that paved the way for establishment of the Indian Association of Law and Economics. And the third conference was held at IIM Ahmedabad. The first conference on the association was held at the Google Institute of Politics and Economics in the year 2018 and followed by IIM Bangalore, National Law India University Bhopal, and at present Tamil Nadu National Law University. We have published the conference proceedings of the GNLU and IIT Kanpur in the form of 2 edited books, and the JAPE conference in the form of journal value. And the association emblem was also developed at ICLE 2018 GAPE. The published work regarding the conference proceedings of the National Law India University Bhopal is in progress, and we are sure that we can count on the present conference proceedings for the publication. We are thankful to the respective head of the institutions and the well-wishers for their leadership and encouragement that really helping us to focus on structure, conduct, and performance of the association. The advancement of digital technology, such as machine learning and artificial intelligence tools, necessitates to enhance our efforts on healthy man-machine interactions. Accordingly, our association could be a platform for like-minded scholars to promote scholarly work on cooperation from the households, firms, and the state to trade off between man-made decisions and mission-made decisions within the purview of sustainable development to promote quality of life. By saying so, I would like to briefly touch upon the cyberspace critical technologies and for the ethical considerations. The technologies provide prompt, accurate, affordable, recordable, storable, and secured services. However, abusive practices by the hardware and software manufacturers and outsourcing regarding installation of bugs and avoid or delay fixing the bugs enhances mistrust in the cyberspace domain that limits the market and non-market transactions and in turn impede sustainable development. And according to Barakude Security Survey, May 2021, nearly 81% of the organizations in India that faced data breach in the past year have been a direct result of an application vulnerability. Hence, there is a need for cyberspace with an incentive structured ethical code as an ex-ante approach needs to be designed at the stages of production, promotion, and usage of technologies that enhances the viability of critical technologies. This in turn reduce the households, firms. Reduce the households, firms, and the state market and non-market transaction costs in the era of globalization under the knowledge economy. And the last but not least, I would like to emphasize a little bit on value of a rupee in the context of sustainable development. And all of us are aware that our country would like to achieve $5 trillion economy by 2025. So in order to achieve this $5 trillion economy, we need to explore explore the resources of landlocked and marine resources. So while exploration and exploitation of these resources, so whatever the exposed mechanism which it is available with us, like economic instruments, environmental justice, and including Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement. There are limitations in order to achieve sustainable development. Even in addition to the ex-ante mechanisms such as pollution control boards too have limitations. So hence, there is a need for workable ex-ante mechanism that really we can say in the context of sustainable performance-oriented production practices. And as part of it, we can talk about sustainability finance, especially the role of Reserve Bank of India and the role of SEBI in order to provide finances to renewable resource energy oriented production practices, so which will really promote sustainable development. So as the association academic endeavor, we also need to really take into the context of the limitations of the resources available at our academic endeavor. So given that we need a kind of collective effort where this association will provide platform to really enhances the quality of work so that our society will benefit out of it, as Professor Bimal Patel emphasized on it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Murali Prasad, for informing the whole gathering what is the roots of this particular association and this conference. Thank you so much. I hope I'm clearly audible to all.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
All right, thank you. Next up, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Elizabeth, the Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu National Law University and also the Chief Patron for the 7th ICLE conference, to render the presidential address. I hope Professor Elizabeth does not need any introduction, so right over to her. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you, Mr. Nitish Kumar. Respected members of the International Association of Law and Economics, the Indian Association of Law and Economics, and particularly Professor Dr. Pantamurli Prasad, who introduced the IALE and the ICLE this morning. Members of the IALE, members of the advisory board of the 7th ICLE, participants of the 7th ICLE, faculty and students of the Tamil Nadu National Law University. And particularly at this time, I'd like to also recognize every member of the organizing committee of the 7th International Conference on Law and Economics, and my good friend and colleague, Dr. Anita Nagar, through whose office, and initiative, we at TNNLU are organizing or co-hosting this 7th International Conference on Law and Economics. A very good morning to each and every one of you gathered here this morning. And my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Bimal Patel, who has delivered the inaugural address as chief guest this morning, but who couldn't continue to be here because of his other commitments. The Pro-Chancellor isn't here this morning, Mr. Raghupati, because of his public commitments and other appointments which came up because of the fact that he is the Minister for Law, Prisons, etc. here in the government of Tamil Nadu. So I'm grateful to them for having accepted our invitation, and and especially to Professor Bimal Patel for having graced this occasion and delivered a truly far-sighted address this morning in order to provide us encouragement for this conference and at the same time give us direction for the future. It is indeed an honor for me to deliver this address as the president of the International Association of Law and Economics and co-host of the 7th International Conference on Law and Economics. Professor Prasad has already provided all of us the details of the IALE and the ICLE. I just wish to say a few words in the context of holding this conference in the Law University. When laws and policies are made, it is extremely important that we ask ourselves, who are we making these laws for? What is going to be the impact of these laws and policies on the different sections of our society? When you look at the history of the way in which different governments have functioned in modern times and in the postmodern world in which we live, we find that oftentimes laws and policies do not seem to take into consideration the most marginalized sections of our society. The reason that we have a separate section here in this conference on gender is precisely because though women comprise more than half the population of the world, economic policies and laws have rarely, if ever, taken into consideration the needs, the concerns, and the conditions necessary for women to exercise their human rights and live lives of dignity. If we have not taken into consideration, women who are so visible, in real life, you can imagine how little attention we have paid to the vast numbers of people who are not visible to us, but who invisibly take care of our economies and societies and keep the world going. The scheduled castes and tribes, the poor, the migrant labor force, and despite the fact that child labor is abolished and all the other things, the fact that child labor is very much in existence. We don't look at these children because we don't see them. It is important that when we make laws and policies, we keep them in our minds. Now, of course, one of the reasons that we don't see them and we don't know about them, we don't hear about them, is simply because there is not enough empirical data. Oftentimes, laws and policies are made in very purely theoretical contexts. We have so many economic theories from Adam Smith down to the most modern times, people who win the Nobel Awards. These theories are theories. They only can become effective when tested against the practical needs of a society. But we get so carried away with them that we completely forget the fact that they impact very real human beings living in this world. And as a consequence, we only learn their failure after they have destroyed lives and livelihoods. And when we look at the law, especially in our country, where we don't go beyond the positivist approach to the study and practice of law, where we imagine that law is objective and neutral, we have absolutely no idea about the impact that these laws have had or not had on the lives of the people in general and the lives of the people that they're meant for very often specifically. It is in that context that I am making this address today, because this is an interdisciplinary conference, trying to bring two different disciplines together using the methodologies and tools of analysis available in both the disciplines to inform each other of what we are doing in our specific field and to bring them together so that the utility of the work we do will be maximized. Laws and policies have the poor and the lower middle class,
Professor?
while they might have yeah.
Professor, your voice is breaking and you weren't audible for a minute's time. So I just wanted to inform you. Maybe keeping your video off might help us to better receive you. Am I audible, Professor?
You are audible, sir.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for confirming it.
Am I audible at all?
You're
Am I
not
audible?
Professor. I would suggest you to have your video off so that the network might not cause issues. Yes, now you are very much audible.
Okay, all right. I have turned my video off. I'm hoping that I'm audible to everyone who is here.
Yes, Professor.
Okay, so I'll just, I guess you all heard the welcome part of it, so I will not repeat that. I will just begin with, where I went into the question of law and economics. Yeah. Okay. Pardon me if there is, pardon?
To give you a note, you are audible till the part you started to speak about law and policies. You
Okay,
spoke about,
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, my internet is connected, but I don't know why it seems to be getting disconnected. Okay. Am I audible now? Because
Yes,
okay, thank you.
Yes.
So just bear with me if there is some repetition. I'll, I'm one of those people, once there's been a distraction, then I just lose connection with what I was thinking and speaking about. Okay, so as I said, when laws and policies are made, it is extremely important that we ask ourselves, who are we making them for? And also understand the impact that these will have on different sections of our society. Because oftentimes when we make laws and policies, we seem to completely ignore the most marginalized sections of our society. And as I said a little while ago, women who are visible, but who we do not give importance to, we don't even think about when we understand how are they impacting these women and different sections of women, for example. We actually focus attention to be part of this policy making bodies who are largely men, as well as, of course, middle classes. Every time the focus seems to be consequences of this policy or that law on classes. But we are all minorities in the vast numbers that our population is. We completely ignore the low middle classes. We ignore the scheduled tribes and some of the backward castes and classes who are literally backward, not just census identity. And as a consequence, we completely are ignorant about what happens to them when we make certain kinds of policies. In just the period before the COVID-19, this was huge and still being felt by them, because soon after that, we had pandemic. And when the pandemic happened again, the way in which the leaving millions of migrant labor, men, women, and children stranded. I mean, there are pictures from that period which will never be erased from my memory. Because, I get dementia, Alzheimer's. The little girl who walked, a 9-year-old girl who walked from Telangana to Jharkhand and died on the way. Why was she walking? Because she was working in the chili fields there. And the transport, and there is no means to sustain herself. That is just one example because that is in my mind. The idea that a little child of being able to enjoy her childhood was first of all working in a child field. And secondly, there are millions of pictures like that around the world. So when we make any law, when we make any policy, it is important we think about at least the most groups of people. At the center for child, and is this going to have a good effect, a good consequence for a female child who is mentally challenged, scheduled caste or scheduled tribe community in the most remote part of this? If you can touch that, everybody else of her will all mind the most backward, the most marginalized in our country. Upon those who already have and have so much that they don't know what to do with it and end up doing things which are unacceptable mainstream society. Of economic development, it is not enough that we only minds on the economic institutions and of course the rich and the middle class. The failure of these policies marginally will affect them. You know, the pandemic, when the crisis happened 2 years, unemployed or have jobs as well as say salaries, people who are in the big corporations, they continued, in fact, some of them to thrive because they quickly adapted and because they're all entrepreneurs taking new initiatives, they were able to make profit. On the other hand, most marginalized ended up in completely being destroyed. They didn't die and starvation. Watching the families while they're unable to provide. And therefore, for me, it is important that in outside science and humanities, that we are fully aware and all the time ideas of not just the most conspicuous theories that are available out there, but actually engage with one another at a more practical level. Because it's not just in the teaching of these subjects from an interdisciplinary perspective that you will actually get to understand the society. More importantly, it requires that we use these tools of analysis, that the research methodologies of these disciplines are brought together as we investigate these various issues that confront our society. Whether, as Professor Prasad was talking about sustainable development, or we're talking about free market economy, or whether we are advocating for welfare economics, whatever theory or whatever perspective we come from, it is important that we learn from each other's disciplines and look at the shortcomings of our own disciplines. The fact that all our disciplines are gender blind is an important thing, because when we talk about gender neutrality, in reality, it is gender blindness. It is not gender neutrality, because in the name of gender neutrality, what we're doing is actually advocating the perspective of the dominant gender. I mean, if we have not even taken into consideration the issues affecting the livelihoods and the practices of women, you can imagine how little attention we pay to the trans persons. In fact, in the context of law, they're almost like they're non-citizens. If it wasn't for the Nalsa judgment, we didn't even acknowledge their existence in the modern state. Not in the pre-colonial periods, when of course they were a very inherent part of the society and economy. we will never get to know about the lakhs of the people who have suffered during these last 2 years of the pandemic worldwide. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that empirical data relating to the kind of work that they do, empirical data relating to the kind of lives that they live are not collected enough. A lot of our research is focused largely upon those who are the dominant sections of our society and those particularly who are living, in the urban areas. And as a consequence, we don't even know what is needed. We don't understand the impact of these various laws and policies that we keep on making and changing. And therefore, I think one of the important things that a conference like this is fixing, when I just looked at some of the papers that are going to be presented over the next 4 days, I realized that many of our scholars have taken the trouble to gather empirical data on different sections of our society. Because it is that kind of research which will make the invisible majority in our societies. And unless we have empirical data, we cannot test these theories. And the consequences, therefore, of the policies that these theories inform, of the laws that are acted, the influence of those who are in these bodies. So for me, it is important that through this particular conference, and in the days ahead after this, all of you who are presenting papers, all of you who are going to be participants at different levels, are chairs and co-chairs, as well as moderating sessions, and all of us are here either as practitioners of law, or as teachers and practitioners of economics. I think all of us can learn from one another, and if there's nothing else that you take from this conference, but a reminder of the consequences, the adverse consequences that our ignorance has for the vast majority of the women, children, and men in this country, I would say that the conference has served a purpose. In closing, I just want to say one thing. As people who live in independent India, we're in the 75th year of India's independence. We're celebrating the 75 years of the creation of this nation. It is important to keep in mind the Constitution in this context, because the Constitution ushered in a completely new value system, a completely new culture, a completely new focus upon what needs to be done by the state and all the various institutions of the state, including, of course, the legislature and the judiciary. And oftentimes we focus upon the preamble, which is important because that sets the goal: justice, liberty, equality for every single citizen of India, promoting fraternity, the sisterhood, the brotherhood of all Indians, and above all of it, upholding the dignity of the individual. And let us not think only about our dignity. Every single person who has to stretch out her arm, asking for alms, is doing it by compromising their dignity. None of us are able to reach out to one another and ask for a little help. We think that, speaks ill of us. So every time you see somebody, a beggar at the traffic light, a beggar on the street side, just imagine what levels they have fallen to, that they've lost their sense of who they are as human beings and forced to eke their existence by stretching their arms out to fellow human beings. And our Constitution, the preamble says, we need to promote the dignity of every individual. In this context, where we oftentimes as lawyers especially focus upon fundamental rights, I want to take the shift back to the part 4 of our Constitution, the directive principles of state policy, which are happily ignored, completely set aside, probably put into the dustbins of every lawyer and lawmaker in this country. There is a reason why that part 4 had been debated upon and put there in our Constitution. It is through part 4 we can achieve true justice. It is through part 4 And by allowing our policy making to be informed by the directive principles of state policy, that we ensure that every single citizen of India, their needs, their concerns are addressed by the lawmakers and policymakers of this country. Just because it does not fulfill the agenda of a capitalist economy or the so-called free market economy, because let's not fool ourselves, no market is really free market anywhere. The laws are being used to control certain aspects of the economy and institutions in order to facilitate the growth of the market. Because we don't allow free movement of labor. So where is it the economy being a free market economy? If we're restricting the movement of labor, we clearly are not enjoying a free market economy. But in the concerns we think that need to be advanced in order to promote this, we completely ignore the directive principles of state policy. How we use resources, who has access to resources, how are those resources distributed? And therefore, I end my presidential address for this, the 7th International Conference on Law and Economics, with congratulating all the members of the organizing committee of the 7th International Conference of Law and Economics, the advisory board of the International Association of Law and Economics, and every single person who has prepared a paper, put them through so many levels to be presenting in the next 4 days. Congratulate you for your consciousness with which you prepared those papers. Congratulate you for things you have worked, because things which are engaged with each other, disciplines, and more importantly, with the society in which we live. Thank you once again for this honor that you bestowed on me, president of this 7th International Conference on Law and Economics, and as the president of the IALE. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor. Sometimes we as researchers and academicians tend to forget what is the purpose of research whilst we are running behind presentations and publications. I think your address struck the right chord in telling us that behind all of this academic expertise that we have, the purpose of doing it also means a lot. And I think this presidential address would have brought that sense to every paper presenter who will be presenting in the upcoming days. Thank you so much, Professor, for setting the tone for the upcoming 3 days of academic discourse. Thank you so much. With that, we officially begin our conference, and at the same time, we also have come close to the end of the inaugural session. Now, with all due respect, I would like to invite Dr. Hitesh Thakkar, Assistant Professor of Economics at Gujarat National Law University, to render the vote of thanks. Over to you, Doctor.
Good morning, one and all present here. Am I audible, sir? Yeah. On behalf of Indian Association of Law and Economics, and on behalf of organizing committee members, I'm deeply thankful to the host institution, I think Tamil Nadu National Law University. In fact, they have done tremendous tasks, and for their meticulous effort to make this conference as a grand success. We also thankful to our chief guest, Professor Bimal N. Patel, Vice Chancellor, Rashtriya Raksha Shakti University, for his chief guest address. In fact, he is a strong pillar for the law and economic movement in India since his association with the ICLE. And we are thankful for his chief guest address on various issues in international law and economic analysis, even national security and economic analysis. So he deliberately discussed in detail about public law and law and economic analysis, and even he also shared his experience. I think surely all the participants have gained a greater knowledge of attending his session. We also express our gratitude to our guest of honor, S. Raghupati, a Minister for Law, Court and Prison and Prevention of Corruption, Government of Tamil Nadu, and Pro Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu National Law University. Though he could not present verbally, but we know that he generally the non-verbal communication, the well wishes, encouragement. I think he has encouraged us. He has given all the support, all the cooperation. So surely, sir, we will do our task effectively, and surely we will try our level best to your expectation and make this conference very meaningful and memorable. Though it may seems formality, but I would like to place in record and the efforts of the all the previous president, vice president, secretary. If I name, then it will be unmeaningful because there are so many people are involved in that. And but I understood one thing very simple in economics, that and we also, I think we and Ranita ma'am both have understood one thing, that there is a significant demand in with regard to the law and economics market. But where is the supply? I think that's what the initially GNLU was facing. So who is creating supply? Who is providing the opportunity and infrastructure for the all the young scholar like us? So I think though maybe Prasad sir, या Ranita ma'am, या Ram Singh sir, या maybe Professor Gangopadhyay, Santa Kumar sir, maybe have faced a tremendous problem when they were approaching it, they were trying to developing law and economics. Like me and Thomas Flex, the colleague like Isa and other people, yeah, maybe Vivek. I don't think we are facing too much problem because there is already supply created by the ILE. And in that context, I am very thankful that ILE is doing a tremendous great job in the context of coming out and making an intellectual hub of law and economics in India. And thankfully, previously people were thinking to do PhD or further advanced study in either in Oxford or Harvard, maybe Chicago, maybe Cambridge, NYU, maybe uh, uh, maybe NIU Singapore. But nowadays, you know that the JNU, Delhi School of Economic, Madras School of Economic, University of Hyderabad, and if you think in true interdisciplinary, the NLUs are offering a true interdisciplinary PhD. And even that has been, now the law has taken the stand. If you see, the higher education policy has make sure that we want the multidisciplinary, the cross disciplinary, we want the interdisciplinary PhDs, the subject matter. So I think all of us are in the what we feel that we are in the right track, and all the new generation, younger generations are getting the fruits of the what ILE has started, begun in 2015. Also, I would like to place on thanks to all the advisory board members, Professor Bimal N. Patel, Dr. Ranita Nagar, Professor Subhasis Gangopadhyay, T.S. Somsekhar sir, Hans Baer Sefer sir, Manoj Dalvi sir, Ram Singh sir, Prasad sir. In fact, as and when the organizing committee was required to get the support, the guidance, I think they have given their best guidance to us, and we make sure that we come out with the as best as possible. Sometimes it becomes tough to be organizing committee members when leaders are so efficient and leaders are so meticulous. I would like to express my deep gratitude to Professor and Madam V.S. Elizabeth, a President of Indian Association of Law and Economics 2021 and Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu National Law University. I think, Madam, you have true leadership quality. And I think your planning schedules and all that things, though all the meeting has taken more than 2 hours time, but I think you are truly, I think, helping us and also guiding us. In fact, you help us to which may be a best way to do. I think that from our side, we'll make sure that this conference will be a mega success. And it is always good that leaders are remaining leader if they don't have true the second best ministers. So I think TNLU, with all that, they have good council of ministers. So starting from what we believe that force behind this conference for the dynamic organizing team. In fact, I'm thankful to my colleague and true convener, I think, Professor Dr. K. Thomas Flex. I think he has done a great task. I think day and night he has uh, tried. He has put the effort to make this conference as a mega success. And I can tell you from attending all the previous conference, I tell you, you have done it and you have done a great job. And I will always be thankful for your you have done tasks which are, I think it's unbelievable to do. If I was in your place, what I feel. Even the organizing committee members, starting from the Council of Ministers, from the TNLU, for uh, 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 Dr. P. Kumareswan son, from Assistant Professor of Commerce, Professor Mohammad Azad sir, Law Professor, Nidesh Kumar TV, Professor of Law, and Santi Samanda, Assistant Professor of Law, along with our ILE team, Saili Ganu, Sunny Busan. I can understand that how relieved we may be today, and hopefully after the 4 days. And I think all effort and other things, I think credits go to all the people. I think you guys has done a wonderful job. Just I'm presenting behalf of you. Otherwise, I'm having a same feeling what you guys are having there. Sometimes the works and efforts remains if we don't bypass to our the immediate beneficiary. And I think the TNLU has done a wonderful job. They have a student members, and all the student dynamic members have done their task as and when assigned by Thomas sir. And the tasks maybe remain in isolation if the admin staff don't give proper support. I think we are very thankful to the admin staff and support, even IT and technical support, for all the support as and when required. So though the task of paper presenters are the main hero and the main heroines of this today's conference, but I think the credit also goes to our reviewers. I think we got so many papers, and we were interested to complete within 2 or 3 days. But seeing the quality and seeing the younger generation enthusiasm, I think the conference was extended, and it is extended from 10 to 6. I think so. A lengthy conference and things are going on, but still, I think the reviewer has done a wonderful job, and we are thankful to the reviewer. Even we are thankful to all chair, co-chair, despite their busy schedule, they have given them concern, and I hope that they will provide us the good feedbacks accordingly. Post conference, we may come out with the best paper, whatever the conference proceeding, whatever the ILE is thinking further. Sometime the conference will never go without the benchmark plenary speaker, and we are thankful to all the plenary speaker who has consented here and given their topic, and they are presenting their ideas in this conference, and they are also igniting the new generation. And it happened that we have paper presenter, panelists, participant. But I think this time we also tried for the observer, and I think we got great number of the people who are interested to be observer, or want to be a listener, a participant. So, in short, if I would like to conclude, then I think this is just only a beginning because only we have done the few conferences. I think there's miles to go, seeing the overall vibrancy, what is there in European law and economics, Asian law and economics, and American law and economics. But I'm sure that we are in the right track, and this conference will surely put forth the law and economics at the different level. With that note, if I have missed out the anything, I could not tell, but my feelings, my the all the hearts and other things goes to all the people who has make this law and economics as a not as a subject matter, as a movement, and they are trying their best to make this law and economics movement in India. With that note, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Thakkar, for one of the most honest vote of thanks that I ever heard of. And I hope your words become true and I become a professor someday. Thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you all. This marks the end of our inaugural session. We would be happy to meet all of you at 12 p.m. for the plenary session 1, for which the link has been already shared in the chat box. Thank you all for joining us. And I think we have kept our promise on the time, and we also hope you keep your promise on your time while you're presenting. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. See you soon. Bye-bye.